Shalom, shalom, family. Welcome to the D.C.B channel. My name is Zurishaddai, one of the teachers of Congregation BINAH CHOKMAH. We are located in the Red Hook section of Brooklyn, New York. Our address is 382 Hamilton Avenue, Brooklyn, New York, 11231. Giving all praise, glory, and honor to the King of the universe, Yehudah, the one who created us all, the one who woke us up this morning. We give glory and honor to his high and holy name forever and ever. Giving due respect to the leadership of our congregation, even my brother, Chief Prince Yehudah Ben Yisrael, praying that the Most High God be with him and his family. Also continuous and prayers to all of those who are listening. Pray that the Most High God be with you all, that he will protect you, guide you, keep you, that the Creator will look out for each and every one of us and keeps us from all harms, seen and unseen. Giving due respect to all the officers, the teachers, the princes, everyone at the sound of my voice. I bid to y'all in tongue of our ancient forefathers, early Shabbat Shalom, and I pray that the Most High God will continue to be with us all. At this time, we're going to move straight ahead, and going to hear from one of my teachers and one of my mentors. He will be going over or highlighting some points in Teruma, the past Sidra from last week, and also we'll be going over Psalms 26 and 22. And that'll be no other than Nasik Zurishaddai Ben Yehudah. How are you, Nasik?
Great, Baruch Hashem. First of all, I'd like to give praise to the Supreme Eternal Universe, God of my forefathers, God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Jacob. Due respect to the platform on D.C.B channel platform. Spiritual leader, Chief Prince Yehudah Ben Yisrael, host Chief Uzael, to the Princess Chief, Rabbinate, Kohanim, Maureen, brothers and sisters, visitors, greet you all in the name of my forefathers. Shalom Aleichem, and early Shabbat Shalom. Adonai Septadita Kufia Gichira Teaka. Oh Lord, I'm my lips, and my mouth shall declare thy praise. We'll be covering, highlighting, bringing out some points in the last Sidra Teruma. Before that, we just had finished Mishpatim, which is a group of a series of laws, civil laws. And now we're going to a whole nother area of Teruma. And the word Teruma means a gift or offering, something that causes it to go up, rise, and something great, something a great substantial. But it means more so a gift. All right, so that in the Sidra actually covers chapters, Exodus 25th chapter, first verse, go to the 27th chapter, 19th verse. Now the Haftorah that normally goes along with it would be 1 Kings 5th chapter, 26th verse, to the 6th chapter, 13th verse. The psalm that would be tied with that would be Psalms 26. But since we're so close to the Purim season, I'll be touching on an extra psalm that's somewhat related to that season, and that's chosen mainly to represent that season. Also the fast of Esther. That would be Psalms 22. And just in case I omit and forget that, I must say now that those that might observe the fast Esther on the East Coast, coming out mostly out of New York, that would be March 6th, all right, and it'd be that particular date on March 6th, and it would start approximately 5:02 in the morning and end 6:26 p.m. They normally read the Megillah that particular evening, which begins the Purim itself that evening, which comes in the 7th of March, which would be the 14th of Adar. Now, they'll be reading the Megillah on the 7th of March that morning, which is the 14th of Adar. For those that might have missed the reading that evening, they have the opportunity to read the whole Megillah, which means the whole book of Esther, pretty much. That's what it means, a scroll. Megillah is like a scroll. So the whole reading of the book of Esther. And then, Some would look at the 15th of that particular day as Shushan's Purim. But right now, I just want to say that now that they have 2 psalms that's dedicated for the particular time, but the most one that's used, they use 7 or they use 22. So the one that's mostly used is 22. So I'm only going to be focused on 22 after I cover some of the things that's related to the particular Sidra of Terumah. Now, Terumah is one of the interesting things. It's a unique situation. And I like to read what it says in English first, and then I'll give you a couple of lines in the Hebrew. It says, "And the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, that they make for me an offering. Of every man whose heart maketh him willing, ye shall take my offering. And this is the offering ye shall take of them: gold, silver, brass, and blue, and purple, scarlet, and fine linen, and goat's hair, and ram skin dyed red, sealskin and acacia wood, oil for the light, spices for the anointing oil, and for the sweet incense, onyx stones, and stones to be set for the ephod, and for the breastplate." All right. So now in the Hebrew, which is an interesting thing, it says, "Whatever Adonai El Moshe Lemor, Daber El Bnei Yisrael, which is the Yituku Li, which means to take for me the Terumah." Now I want to just focus on that because we have a lot of things that's being done here that's a marvel thing. Sometimes we may not consider. And here it is that the Creator is making a demand of Moses, but a demand that's predicated on a willing heart. And that's one thing to consider. You have a demand, but the demand is based on a willing heart. And you never say give, you say take for me. Not that I'm going to take it myself. So those are some of the things to think about. And then what is really marvel in this particular thing, which I'm just going to highlight some things and then we're going to move on, is that you have what we have, and no other doctrine I could think of myself. Maybe someone out there might know. There's no other doctrine I know of where even in their own ideology that their deity requested for something to be taken from them. I don't know of any. Usually people would just volunteer to bring this or build something for them and whatever and dedicate it to them, but never such a demand as that. And then if they demand it, it wouldn't be whether your heart is in it or not. Now that's something to consider and talk over, in depth, because that's a marvel idea, a marvel concept. And another I find strikingly marvel concept is that here a creator, want these materials. You just can't bring them any old thing. He want specific materials for specific reasons. And when we go through the book of Terumah, we mostly not dealing with a bunch of civil laws. We giving straight up instructions of how things should be done. Straight up instructions, so particular portion. That's another concept to consider. And then one of the still more concept to be considered is that why do we have to make a mishkan, a tabernacle, for one that made the heavens and the earth and all that in them is? Why couldn't he make that himself? And if he made the heavens and the earth and all that in them is, and we haven't been all over the earth, and we haven't been all over the heavens, then what purpose would that little bitty spot that's about 100 cubits long going to do for him? So those are some mind-boggling concepts. And then this is what you consider the first fundraising project, that's ever was done, in the sense of anybody, deity saying, this is what I want. This is the first fundraising process. And especially for Israelites, this is the first fundraising, and building project that ever existed for us as Israelites. Now, we read in the back where they built other things, and you got pyramids, and then you got the Tower of Babel, and you got stuff that was built, but as a demand from a higher source, and he's saying, you bring the funds and take it for me. So what do they mean by take it for me? And then still talking about, and I only want it from those who has a willing heart. So what do we own that doesn't belong to the Creator? When we read later on that all souls are mine. So when we look at that concept, and I know a lot of people, think about the instructions of building this being sometimes might be tedious to the modern viewpoints of today. But just think of that, you have a request separate from you being righteous, separate from you being a humanitarian for another individual. You have a request that's strictly for the purpose of the God you serve. So a lot of times people today don't mind serving and helping or doing something for the Creator, but they want to do something for the fellow man. But here in this case, this is the demand that's strictly for the Creator. And you say, well, how could, you could ask Moses to take for him and for us to have a willing heart at the same time. So now we got to say, okay, charity is really a foundation, but charity is usually for somebody that's deprived. So how, so we can't look at this as a charity, because usually when you extend charity, it's for somebody that's less fortunate. But the word, yikaku, Lee, take from me. That's something that we need to consider, because how I'm being willing if you're taking something from me. That's a concept and a mind-boggling thing. And some of the things I like to share, so that's something we should discuss a little bit more in depth, because this is a prime example of a place where we're going to build a mishkan, a tabernacle, and the tabernacle is not for the Creator even to dwell in. He said, so you build a tabernacle, so that I may dwell amongst you, with calm, with amongst you instead of instead of within him, within it. So if you're going to dwell in us, you had the thing in the other book, in those that read the New Testament, it said, know ye that ye are the temple. This is the first concept, said, you do this for me so I could dwell in you. Now, how can you dwell in me? If the heavens of the heavens cannot contain thee, which is a part of the Torah and the dedication that Solomon built for the temple itself centuries later. So those are some marvel things to consider. And then what's dynamic is this, that when we think of what we do, when we give to another individual and assist another individual, and you give it with a willing heart, you actually taking something from that individual. And sometimes you might think, what am I taking from this individual if I'm giving it with a willing heart? Well, you giving the individual something to assist them in a certain endeavor, but you're not giving the individual everything he will ever need in life. But you assisting him, so you ain't satisfying him to the whole height of his existence. You're giving him only, enough that you could able to give to sustain them in a minute manner. But because you was able to give it and you felt good to give it, that you took the opportunity to say, well, he made me feel good about myself. I feel good about myself for being able to assist another individual. So now, though you gave a little bit of, whatever you did, maybe a few coins or some food or whatever, some clothes, you did, that was a good thing you did. But you feel good about what you did concerning yourself. That's, so you show good to the individual, but you feel good concerning what you did. So, and if you feel good about what you did, you actually taking when you give. You actually taking. So when it's talking about, take from me, the Creator, and I use the example often is that when a parent go to a graduation for their child, and the child get up there and get their diploma, whatever the case is, degree, the parent be proud, happy, and at the joy, but their name is not on it. They got that joy because they invested in their child. And since they invested in the child, it's not with the investment, it's not all the child gonna ever use. But that gratitude, that light, that love that they have gonna be, much more, for them than it is for the child. So hence, when we give, when the Creator says you're gonna take, take from me, actually we're taking from the Creator. Because like David put it in another fashion, all things are thine and of thy own we give thee. So those are some takeaways there. Now I just want to highlight a couple of points in there, and then I'm gonna move on to this Torah. A couple of portions in the places in the Torah. But I like to speak on some items in here. You have we know the purpose of the tabernacle was not to house the Creator himself. It was to house the ark of the covenant that can contain the tablets of the covenant here. Now, Moses is getting this instruction while he's in the mountain for 40 days. He's getting this instruction. Now, there's always debate about the order, because a couple sidros after this here, we'll be talking about the sin of the Chet HaEgel, which is the sin of the golden calf. So we'll be speaking about that in a couple of weeks. But in the meantime, between times, one of my chief men brothers like to say, we'll be focusing on that. We take notice that this here is mentioned out of place. And sometimes, the chronological order, or we say often, the scriptures may not be in a chronological order. And some, there's always a debate whether it was chronological or not. And the arguments on both sides. But go back in the Sidra of Sarah. When we think about Sarah, and she dies in that Sidra, in that same Sidra of Sarah, you read about Abraham being dying. But yet, afterwards, we read about the generations of Isaac, and we know that Abraham lived as long when the Jacob and Esau got 15 years old before Abraham had died. So sometimes they would say, well, that's out of order there to keep the uninterrupted episode concerning the patriarch Isaac. So sometimes things are out of order, but whatever message they have, it's for us to try to learn from it, in that order, So I can't say why it's out of order. And I didn't place, I'm not the one that canonized the scriptures. So, but there's something to notice as we go forward that, there's always a talk about the order here. But we know that Moses got the instructions while in the mount. So one of the things we got to also consider that he was shown uh, three major items in in the image on the mount, and the items basically, I was going to say leave it in just for y'all to discuss it, but just to save times, the menorah, the mishkan, and also the mezbeach and the kosher, the brazen altar that they actually sacrifice upon. All right, so those three areas there. Now let's just think about some of the things that's in the tabernacle itself. All right, before I move on. And one of the things you talk about, the most sacred item in the tabernacle was actually the Ark of the Covenant that was placed in the Holy of Holies. And it's basically, you say, it's the most sacred, but yet it was one of the very simple items to build. You have a box, a wooden box. First, you have a gold box. Then you have a wooden box built out of shittim wood, acacia. But shittim is the Hebrew word. Cedar, sometimes you might refer to it. There's always a debate about that particular tree. But they have that. And then they had another box of gold put on the inside of that box. So you got three boxes, a gold outward, a wooden inward, and then an inner gold box. And you got one solid cover of gold with two figures on there called cherubims. Some say they look like, young children. We don't, that's up for discussion. But basically two cherubims on there facing each other with their wings, stretched out towards one another. And the Creator was able to commune to, at one time, and Moses, then later on through, the priest, between the cherubims in the Holy of Holies. So now you got and it's strange that the you
Right, give us a second here while Prince Zurishaddai have a little technical difficulties here. We'll wait for him to come back on. I'm not sure what's happening or going on, but we'll wait for him to come back on. See if we could get this back up and running again. Not sure if he could hear me at this moment. Seems like he's having a little trouble with his internet. So wait for him to come back on.
have the item of which is actually that also in the Hebrew called the menorah. So now when we look at okay, I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, you went blank for
Like that.
4 minutes.
Okay, but I remember where I was at anyway. I remember
Okay.
exactly. All right. So you had one of the most if it's a glitch here, hopefully I cover back where it was at. I know it was a glitch, I don't know what happened. But it had you had these three items here.
All right, once again, sorry for that pause in the service. Nasik is having some technical difficulties on his end. I'm not sure what that is. It's going in and out. And we'll get back to you shortly as soon as he gets that solved on his end. Okay. I'm trying to work that out right now. All right, letting them back in the room now. Shalom.
Yeah, you hear me? You hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. Yeah, you got to pick
Okay,
it up.
so meeting is live.
Yeah, you
I got it.
All right.
That the menorah, if they see a double, they understand. All right, I'm gonna try to be a little fast now.
All right.
The only item that we was talking about the menorah, you know, for those that might find it choppy, please forgive me in this here and try to stick with it. I'm not that great in computer, so on my end, all I know is how to join, and you know, that's it. But the menorah itself, when it comes to the menorah, that's the only item out of the whole Mishkan that doesn't give a size or weight to, and it had to be hammered out of one piece of gold. That means you couldn't just put some sections here and make branches with the knots and all this stuff here and the bowls of cups and all that, and the designs that's in it. You couldn't just do it and then weld it together. You had to beat it out from one piece of gold. Now that is some serious artwork, and it doesn't say how big, how heavy, how high, but it talks about what it should look like and what the design is. So that is one of the most difficult items out of all that. And you notice that if you use a symbolism between it, that the menorah is set on the south side of the tabernacle, the corner point, and the showbread is on the north side of the tabernacle. And you have also, they have the golden altar, you know, in between those two, you know, towards the west. What we have, you know, in there is that you got two polar opposites, you know what I mean? And when we think about the ark itself, everything has a symbolic meaning. The actual Ark of the Covenant, you know, with the gold, you know, on the inside and gold on the outside and the wood in between. It's almost like, you know, a character of an individual. You know, inside we have the pure essence of what we truly are. In between is that basic level of what we, you know, what we actually portray, you know, and then the goal on the outside is what we like to project to everybody else. So when I say portraying, I'm saying what, where we at as an individual. So the wood part would represent what we really at as an individual. But the inner soul, the inner person, the inner soul that's within us, that gold that's inside the ark, that's actually the divine spark within us that coming from the Creator. And then the gold on the outside is what we try to emulate. So sometimes we got to suppress some of our animalistic characteristics in that area to make sure that we constantly emulate what's really the divine spark the way it be on the outside to be a true spark. Whereas the light itself, will represent more or less that brightness of thought, and that's that spirituality, that height of knowledge. And when we look at the bread that sits upon the table itself, is actually more of an animalistic type element. And then you think about fire and water. Sometimes they, the word Shemayim itself, even though it could be of waters, you could literally say a Mayim, but it also could be a combination of two words, H and Mayim, which is fire and water, uniting together, opposing opposites that's uniting for one good, glorious purpose. It's almost like when you think about the tree of knowledge of good and evil, then how do you have good and evil still on one tree? What part of the fruit would you bite? That'd be only good. What part of the fruit you would bite that would only be evil, but it working together for a particular purpose. So, and just like we have what you call the Yetzer Hara and Yetzer Tov, we have a good heart and evil inclination, good inclinations and evil inclinations. So we have those things there. So those are some of the lessons and takeaways. I'm gonna move on just in case I have another glitch, and we're just gonna read a couple of things from the Torah itself before I go to the Psalms. But one of the things we like to focus on is that we're told by the Creator to build something for Him, but He wants to dwell within us. So that's an important factor, that we have a Creator that wants to be with us and within us. So I'm just going to read a couple of verses from the Torah itself in the book of Kings, the 1 Kings 5th chapter. And I think I'm going to pick it up from the 9th verse. 26. And this is about Solomon, because we read last week about David praying for Solomon to be successful. And sometimes the prayer works for, for a man such as David. And when you study this here particular Torah, you'll find out some of the things at the dedication of the temple. You'll find out that David already prayed for and that Solomon learned from his father. But the 26th verse, it says, on the 5th chapter, the 26th verse, and the Lord gave Solomon wisdom as he had promised him. And there was peace between Hiram and Solomon, and they two made a league together. So that lets you know right then and there that be able to create peace between another individual, especially one that's a senior to you, and you're a new guy coming up on the throne. Solomon had the diplomatic decorum, because he had the wisdom to be able to say, okay, I know how to talk to an individual, not talk down to an individual, but how to talk and reach the individual. Solomon had that, where it said it was peace between them two. Solomon was satisfied as well as the individual was satisfied, and because of the wisdom he had. And then I'd like to read this last part of this particular portion from 11th verse, 6th chapter, 11th verse, onward to the 13th verse of the Torah, because it's something very insightful in dealing with this here area. So taking it from the 11th verse, it said, and the word of the Lord came to Solomon, saying, as for this house which thou art building, right? And remember, and pay attention, said, as for this house which thou art building, if thou will walk in my statutes and execute my ordinances and keep all my commandments to walk in them, then I will establish my word with thee, which I have spoken unto David, thy father. And that's and that I will dwell therein among the children of Israel, and will not forsake my people Israel. So we went from a transition, a speedy transition. I know I'm moving fast just in case I have another glitch. Speedy transition from a portable tabernacle, where the tabernacle was able to move when we move. Actually we followed the tabernacle in that sense, I should say. And the tabernacle, once it reached a spot, it made that spot holy. The temple, we had to move to the temple and go towards the temple. So the spot where the temple was located was holy. The tabernacle made the spot holy when it reached there. So and we're talking about 480 years since the Exodus from Egypt that we reached that point of the tabernacle, from the tabernacle a portable place, sanctuary, to a permanent sanctuary. And still, the Creator wasn't going to dwell in neither one, the tabernacle or the Hamikdash, the temple itself. It's just that he wanted to dwell amongst his people. And whatever concept of any deity that said, I want to dwell within the individual. You know, those are marvel concepts to think about. How, you know, great that the Creator we serve. And then a lot of times, I was discussing with my brother earlier, and also with Isha saying that why we should praise the Creator, and we should praise and worship the Creator simply because he earned it. That's it. Simply because he earned it. And when we read, that's why we read most of the Psalms for all that the Creator had done. Even in the Decalogue, he states what he had done for us already. He identified himself, and then he state what he done in the commandments. I'm the Lord thy God, which has brought thee out of the land of Egypt. Identification and part resume. So he earned certain things out of us. He's the only concept where we could say in the book. He said, well, what fault have your fathers found in me? Or you or your fathers. So what concept anybody would have in the past to say in any mythology or ideology where their deity they worship said, you could bring me to court. But those are some of the marvel things here. But I'm gonna go straight to the Psalms now. Psalms 26 first, that deal with part of this particular portion. It's only 12 verses there, and then we'll go to Psalm 22 and talk a little bit about Purim, then that'll be it. So bear with me, and we go to Psalms 26, the book of Psalms. And this is where David turns to the Creator. Sometimes we have no place to turn. Turn it, and when we have a real serious problem, then David letting us know, sometimes I can't just ask the next individual to help me out of a problem. Sometimes the problem is bigger than me and the individual put together. Sometimes I have to refer to the Creator to help assist me and not my problems. All right, so Psalms 26. Psalm of David says, judge me, O Lord, for I have walked in my integrity and trusted. And normally for most people say I walk in my integrity, that's a problem. But when David talked about I have walked in my integrity and the moral standards that the Creator has set on record, those laws, statutes, and judgment that he set on record, that became his standard of living. And so from the laws that God had gave to the prophet Moshe, then that became David's standard of living at that particular time. And that's why he said, judge me, because I walk in my integrity. When my understanding of what your law is, that is what I'm looked to be judged by. Because that's the only thing I can say I'm qualified, by, doing your will. And most of us try to avoid judgment. We get this particular day, Yom Kippur, and then also we're coming up to a day that's called Purim, which is the same thing as short for the same root for Pur, which is lots. Part of the root is for word lots. And we had some tragic things. So sometimes Kippur, if we look at it grammatically, we could say like pure ring, and we used to cough and say, and just say it's like Purim itself. But here it is, we had some rough times in that. But David's saying right then, I want to be judged, according to, my integrity, because my integrity is based on what you told me how I should live. All right. So, and it said, And they talk about, I trusted in the Lord without wavering. So now when we go further, the second verse, you ready?
Verse 2 reads, examine me, O Yehovah, and try me. Test my reins and my heart, for thy mercy is before mine eyes, and I have walked in thy truth.
All right there. So now, I want you to examine me, the Creator, find out what's wrong with me. You know, if I'm living up to your standards, am I all that you meant for me to be? That's why I want you the one that could tell me whether I'm doing what I need to do. Because my understanding is what, you know, my integrity is based on what you taught me, but perhaps I'm not understanding it to that degree that you want me to understand it. Because, I remember oftentimes in the past, people say, you know, God knows my heart. And that is true. The Creator do know your heart, but do I know you to be a good individual? You know, and they would also say, no matter what you say. So the Creator knows their heart, but me and the individual might be interacting, or they might be interacting with other individuals at the time, and they figure, disregard what you think about me. Long is what the Creator think about me. But it got to be, you know, where you do that which is good and right all the time. And righteousness should be seen and not hidden. Foolishness should be hidden and not seen. But anyway, it is a testament of the reins of my heart. So, and it goes on to say, for the mercy is before my eyes, and I walk in thy truth. All right, let's deal with the fourth verse.
Verse 4, it reads, I have not sat, it reads, give me 1 second here. It reads, I have not sat with men of falsehood, neither will I go in with dissemblers.
All right, hold on. All right. Okay, keep going, finish your picture. Go to the next one.
I hate the gathering of evildoers and will not sit with the wicked.
Okay, hold right there. So, some things you're supposed to hate in life. And David's saying that I'm not going to be caught up with guys like that. I'm not going to be around guys like that. I'm going to avoid guys like that. Because all they're going to do is look to cause havoc and pandemonium and chaos for somebody else. And sometimes they get themselves caught up in it. So David said, you ain't going to find me hanging out with dudes like that. So sometimes the old folks used to say, when I was coming up, you know, be careful of the company you keep. They tell you that all the time. I don't like you running with these guys. I don't like you hanging out with them girls. You know, because of how they move. And sometimes people say you become guilty by association. David himself distanced himself from that. And he said, I hate that kind of stuff. Not I hate the individuals, but hate what they're about. He said, he walking in the truth. And he said, I don't sit with men of falsehood. People that always want to lie. All right. And people that always create problems, chaos, pandemonium, you know. And then I hate the gathering of evildoers. And when I sit with the wicked. So that means that they have a meeting. People come together to plot and to say, now, what could we mess with next? They have that kind of attitude. And you've got to try to distance yourself. Normally, if you're in a council of brothers, and you're talking about, building, as people say when they're building philosophy, people say we're talking philosophy, we're talking religion, we're talking lifestyles, family. Those are positive, attributes. When you discuss Torah, not only you become stronger, but you strengthen your next individual you're discussing it with. Most people don't want to talk about it. Say, I ain't got no time for the Bible now. I ain't got no time for that religious stuff. I ain't got no time to talk about all these here spirituality stuff. If you don't have that kind of time, and yet you're working with time, which is spiritual in a sense, then You really don't care about how you live and what your life going to be, the outcome of your life. So when people gather together and talk, and what's strange, you can have a long conversation on a baseball game, a football game, a basketball game, but very few people have a long conversation about life building and concern. And David said, I know, and I don't have no time to be around people that would even not go even more drastic, but talking about how I can hurt somebody. All right, how can I get over? Anytime you hang around a bunch of people that's always saying how I'm gonna beat this system, how I'm gonna beat that system, and how I'm gonna plot, how I'm gonna go against the established order, then you gotta watch that. Beware of the company you keep. And David said he won't be caught with that. And in 6th verse it says,
verse 6 reads, I'll wash my hands in innocency, so will I compass thine altar, O Yehovah, that I may make the voice of thanksgiving to be heard and tell of all thy wondrous works.
Hold right there. All right. Compass the altar. The major altar, when we talk about the items in there, the table, the showbread, and the menorah, those two items there. All right. Spiritual, physical, taking the law and bringing it into action. Your action is being exhibited in the courtyard by the altar. When you bring up your offerings, you're displaying a certain type of human action. We always say it's deeds, not creeds. So the thing is that the layout of the actual tabernacle teaches you a lot of information about life and character. You just look at the various items that's in there, how they position, how they, and what they made of. All that is, important. And those things here supposed to teach you a lesson, even from the building of the Mishkan itself. But we're gonna go a little bit further. This will be a little faster, so I don't want to have a glitch. So you can pick it up from the 8th verse.
Verse 8 reads, Yehovah, I will love the habitation of thy house, and the place where thy glory dwelleth. Gather not my soul with sinners, nor my life with men of blood.
Okay, hold on. We say that prayer, so most of us love the habitation of the house and place where thy glory dwelleth. We say that verse all the time, and it is, and that's what he said he loved, but we're gonna finish it out by doing any more talking. Keep going.
Verse 9, gather not my soul with sinners, nor my life with men of blood. 10, in whose hands is craftiness, and their right hand is full of bribes. But as for me, I will walk in mine integrity, redeem me, and be gracious unto me. My foot standeth in an even place, and the congregations will I bless Yehovah. Hallelujah.
Right there. Now, also, I didn't have time to go into some of the Hebrew terms in this. It's in the hipa'el, which is in the corselet. So God, and when you look at it, it causes his feet to be standing upright. The last verse. One of the things when we look at this last verse, and I'm just going to look at it and look at some of the issues that pass. Like we still be in a COVID thing. That's something that hit us, shut down. Some places being re-shut down. Some places, trying to make it move. The irony is this. In David's psalm, he said, "Where I'm not going to be at, where's chaos, where's wickedness, where's evil, where's plotters of iniquity." He said, "Those guys, places I'm not going to be at." During the pandemic, they shut down everything. You got to wear a mask. Had these real strict, real tight restrictions. But every now and then, a person could go to a bar. Every now and then, a guy could go to the store, buy some food. And they have a restaurant, bring your food on the outside. But yet, when it comes down to the worship at the synagogue, they go to the doctor's office. They go to the hospital. But when when it comes down to a place where you worship and pray to the Creator of heaven and earth, they say, "No, I don't want to take any chances." Well, that's where you have your best chance when you go to before the Creator and pray. David said, my foot is there by the altar. My foot is there in the house of the Creator. In other words, I'm right there where I could pray. So no matter what happened on the outside, I'm inside the graces of the Creator. And that's one of the things you flip between terms of grace and mercy in this here psalm as well, which in Hebrew, which I'm not focusing on right now because I'm trying to speed a little bit. So we're going to go back to the 22nd psalm, which is a psalm that most people is not that familiar with, dealing with Purim. And
Psalms 22.
Psalms 22. They're familiar with the 23rd psalm, but very few people know that this 22nd psalm, they heard the first couple of lines, and they hear in when most pastors say, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani, which is really not the right pronunciations, but it's Eli, Eli, lama, which is why abzapti, why have you abandoned me, why I'm lost, so that's actually the pronunciation. But they say that one individual has said that while he was being crucified. Now, this psalm is written over, close to 1,000 years, close to 1,000 years before, the individual they said that while being crucified, this psalm is written. And this is a psalm that most people don't read, but they read the 23rd psalm, the Lord's my shepherd and I shall not want. They read that all the time. And I kind of wonder why they never really focus on this particular psalm. And this psalm is chosen as well as the 7th psalm, but this psalm is chosen for the time of Purim when we was actually getting ready to be annihilated. Now, I'm just going to read through it just a little longer, so I'm going to read mostly through it, and then I'll just talk pretty much close to the end. All right.
Psalms 22, verse 1.
For
the leader upon Hahijalet, Ha-Shashar, a psalm of Dawid.
Hold it right there. Now, first of all, it's telling you who it's for. Right? That's what it started off with. Who this psalm is for. So if somebody else using it, it wasn't for them. It's for the individual that David wrote this psalm for. I mean, so we don't want to get we don't cause no problems, but we don't want to make any mistakes in that area. Because a lot of times they don't read who it's addressed to and what purpose is behind. But we're going to go on like that, so much to be said on that.
Verse 2. My God, why hast thou forsaken me and art far from my help at the words of my cry?
Keep going.
O my God, I call by day, but thou answerest not, and at night, and there is no surcease for me. Yet thou art holy, O thou that art enthroned upon the praises of Yisrael.
Hold right there before we go to 5. All right. First of all, and then you know the time frame too. Give you some time frame that this psalm is being said about the crying and you feel abandoned, feel out, feel forsaken. I ain't got time to sing it myself. And it's used on a particular type of instrument. So when you look into the Hebrew, you see that certain instruments is being used here. But being I'm talking to a big crowd, we're just gonna read and see what we can extrapolate from this. Go ahead, pick it up.
Verse 5. In thee did our fathers trust. They trusted and thou didst deliver them. Unto thee they cried and escaped. In thee did they trust and were not ashamed.
Keep going.
But I am a worm and no man, a reproach of men and despise of the people.
Hold right there. Wow. I see, people will take things out of context sometimes and apply it to somebody. But I got to constantly remind you that this was addressed to the leader. This is a psalm of David. And he talked about a situation that he actually been in. And what he actually, his life experiences. And that's just something that we got to consider. All right, continue.
Verse 8. All they that see me laugh me to scorn, They shoot out the lip. They shake the head. Let him commit himself unto Jehovah. Let him rescue him. Let him deliver him, seeing he delighteth in him. For thou art he that took me out of the womb. Thou madest me trust when I was upon my mother's breast. Upon thee I have been cast from my birth. Thou art my God from my mother's womb.
Hold it right there. Before we go further. All right. One, we gotta look at some of the analogies to use here. All right. Because, you know, people saying, when you become committed to the Creator, committed to serve God, committed to try to better yourself in life, and say, I want to learn what is godly, a better, higher principle of living and how to deal with my fellow human beings. Then people sometimes might look at you and try to distance themselves or look at you like, oh, you think you're all that. No, you realize that you're not all that. That's why you're trying to become something greater than where you at that point in time in life. So you realize that. And it goes on, and it said, but I like the part in the 10th verse, part of the 10th verse says, thou made me trust when I was upon my mother's breast. How do a baby have to be taught the suckle breast? A newborn baby is never taught the suckle breast. Automatically, they realize this is what I need to do. But that's something that the parent never teach them at all. He trusts that doing this gonna satisfy me. I don't know what the baby mindset is, even though we all was babies. We can only remember back so far. All right, all of us may not be fortunate as Jeremiah. Depends on how you read that verse. That, you know, I mean, he had this conversation in the womb or this conversation later. All right. But let's pick it up even further. It says, God, my God, from my mother's womb. So David's saying, I acknowledge you from that far back. I ain't just discovered you as being my God. I realized you was a God all the time. 12th verse.
Verse 12. Be not far from me, for trouble is near, for there is none to help. Many bulls have encompassed me. Strong bulls of Bashan have beset me round. They open wide their mouth against me as a ravening and a roaring lion. I am poured out like water, and all my bones are out of joint. My heart has become like wax. It is melted in mine inmost parts. My strength is dried up like a potsherd, and my tongue cleaveth to my throat. And thou layest me in the dust of death.
Okay.
For dogs have encompassed me, a company of evildoers have enclosed me. Like a lion, they are at my hands and my feet. I may count all my bones, they look and gloat over me. They part my garments among them, and for my vesture do they cast lots.
All right, there. Now, I had to stop there for a minute because everybody said, who are you talking about? But, and a simple thing, because I'm not really here to, you know, bash any ideology. I'm here to present certain truths about how things are written in the book. First of all, garments is in the plural. That's number one. And you know, they part my garments among them. All right. That means there's more than one outfit he had on that he had, you know, at his disposal. All right. And then you know, from a vesture do they cast lots. All right. So then it goes on, you know, let you know that a lot of times we just can't take this. It's about a man going through all this, because David spent a lot of his years on the run. And then when we think about David, and we think about the nation Israel, and we think about the city of Terumah, we think about the temple that Solomon built, and we think about, as we get into this season of Purim, we as a nation only been united in the time of Moses through Joshua, and the elders outlived Joshua. Then we separate to the time of King Saul as a nation, through the time of King David as a nation, through the time of King Saul as a nation. And then I like to just back up a little bit, because when David became king, it still was a slight division, but it still was a united nation, so to speak. It's just a problem about who's in charge of that nation completely. But when so under Saul, you had, but those three kings, you had the Israel completely united. So that means that Israel, as a nation, only been united under three kings since our inception in the land. And we're only united at one time with Moses and Joshua. And after Joshua and Elzah, that was the end of that. So that tell you that unless the Creator unite us, unless the Creator work with us, we can't get it together on our own. We spent more time separate than we ever been together in our history. And that's just a natural history that we look at. But let's read a couple more verses on this and finish it.
Verse 20, but thou, O Yehovah, be not far off. O thou, my strength, hasten to help me. Deliver my soul from the sword, mine only one from the power of the dog. Save me from the lion's mouth, from the horns of the wild oxen, do thou answer me.
Okay,
I will declare
I'm going to deal with the gratitude with God from here, all right, from this part on. All right. So then says the psalmist starting to thank the Creator. Even going through all those things, and even though he's praying for deliverance, he changes over now and says, time for me to thank the Creator. So let's read a little bit and let's see what we got here. 23rd.
Verse 23, I will declare thy name unto my brethren. In the midst of the congregation will I praise thee. Ye that fear Yehovah, praise him. All ye the seed of Jacob, glorify him. And stand in awe of him, all ye the seed of Yisrael. For he have not despised nor abhorred the lowliness of the poor, neither have he hid his face from him. But when he cried unto him, he heard. From thee cometh my praise in the great congregation. I will pay my vows before them that fear him. Let the humble eat and be satisfied. Let them praise Yehovah that seek after him. May your heart be quickened forever. All the ends of the earth shall remember and turn unto Yehovah, and all the kindreds of the nations shall worship before thee.
Hold right there, right there, right. Before we finish it up, and on the 29th. All right. One of the things is that, the most closest you could get to the Creator is in the congregation. Most people, and I heard it so many times in so many years, they say, I can't really come around, man, because I got too much problems, I'm trying to get myself together. Well, it's obviously you trying to get yourself together, you failing. You're a failure. You don't have the solution. So since you don't have the solution, you got a lot of problems, you get yourself in problems. Sometimes you need help getting out the problem. And when you need help getting out the problem, everybody is not like King Solomon to a degree where he said, I loan my heart to folly and madness. And then I perceive it was not good. Most of us give our heart over to folly and madness. So sometimes we got to go where your strength lies. And I'm saying that's more so is because it's only when drama hit as a nation, then we turn to the Creator. When drama hit, when drama don't hit you, we forget the Creator often and prosperity. Sometimes we read, it says, do not make me too rich lest I forget you. And don't make me too poor because I might curse you. So you want to be in an area where you're comfortable, your needs are met, and you can be constantly appreciative without being forgetting. But let's read a little bit further in this here song.
And it reads,
29.
Verse 29, for the kingdom is Yehovah's, and he is the ruler over the nations. All the fat ones of the earth shall eat and worship. All they that go down to the dust shall kneel before him, even he that cannot keep his soul alive. A seed shall serve him. It shall be told of Adonai unto the next generation. They shall come and shall declare his righteousness unto a people that shall be born, that he have done it. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. All right, that's a testimony. So, one of the things about Purim, like I said, as we come into it, those that, think about the Purim and the time of Esther, Mordecai, during that transition of the captivity between Nebuchadnezzar and the kings of Persia. And mind now, some people's in the land. Pharaoh, and Purim is it's almost exactly 30 days before Pesach. You could say 30 days in a sense. But with Pharaoh only wanted to get rid of men. Pharaoh himself, his issue was national security. That was his platform. That was his politics. That's his reason for trying to get rid of certain people in Israel and enslaving Israel. He was figuring, for his warped mind was that this is a matter of national security. As we approach Purim, it's not a matter of national security. It became a matter of hatred, causeless hatred, because one man will not bow to another man, that everybody throughout 127 promises had to die for that. So that is racism on steroids. That's what we call it, racism on steroids. And because this is simply, a guy won't bow to you, but you ain't satisfied with dealing with the individual. You want to get all his people that he's related to, anybody that's in the same nation. So Purim is a real serious thing, because now that was the most predominant causeless hatred, at least in the Maccabean period, which we have centuries later. In the Maccabean rebellion, you had some guys, the Greek Syrians didn't hate everybody. They only hated those that wasn't trying to do that Hellenistic stuff. They only had problems with guys that was trying to do other stuff. But if you was doing what they was doing, you was cool with them. In Purim, during the time of Purim, when this guy, that had the issue with Mordecai, it was, I just don't like these people. I want to get rid of all these people. And I'm on pay to get rid of all these people. No process, no reason or rhyme other than I'm mad at one individual. So when Israelites don't think about how important that day is, and how we should be thankful for the miracle, because you don't read where God intervened and talked about the book of Esther. You don't read where the Creator come with them in any kind of words or signs in the book of Esther. And yet a whole nation was saved. So that's something prolific. So, and the psalmist is saying, look how dark it looked. But he's able to, at the end of the psalm, and that's what they usually read the psalm close to for Purim. It's because no matter how dark things look in the very beginning, at the very end, not only you gonna give a testimony, to the Creator, but other nations, would give a testimony to the Creator. Those that was all right at the end, those that try to repent, and those that didn't have had killed anybody, that was one of God's people. And then you're gonna have a new story to tell your children about the greatness of God. We talk about the Passover every year. Now we talk about the Purim every year. And then later on, we're going after this last roundup, when God gathered the children of Israel from the east, from the north, and the south, and the west, from the four corners of the earth, and bring the children from afar, then it's going to be a new story being told over and over again. So, and we cannot forget the stories. I meant to say this a couple of weeks ago, but and it's something to think about, is that most of us might know our grandparents on one side. You might know your mother's father. You might know your mother's mother. some of us might know our mother's mother, our mother and our mother's father, and our father's mother and my father's father. All right. So that's 4 grandparents already. Very few of us would know the the great grandparents, or so you might not know your mother's grandfather, or your mother's grandmother, or your father's grandmother, or your father's grandfather, and you might not know anything about them. And then forget about your great great grandfather and your great great grandmother on both sides. So, in just 4 generations, you have no clue or trace of who's the people in your family. No reason or rhyme. And 4 generations. So now when we look at dealing with, today, and some of us don't even know 4 grandparents. And there's 4 grandparents. That means, your mother's mother, and your mother's father, and your father's mother, and your father's father. Some of us don't even know their name. Some of us don't even know anything about them. So unless we study and tell these stories over and over again, history would be a mystery. History would be a pure mystery in our own personal lives. So it's important for us not only to leave a legacy, but interact and leave a record about who we are. And that's the truth of the matter. I mean, it's a lot of people, me personally, all I know about my father's grandfather. That's all I know. All I know about my other sisters and them siblings. They knew him personally. I know my grandmother on that side personally, because she outlived him. But I never knew him. And I'm saying, so I couldn't tell you anything about him other than what people tell me. So that closeness of family and relationship. So when David's able to say in the song that he's able to relate it to the newborn generation, that means that he's keeping a track record of this. So when we look in the book and we see all the greatness, and he's talking about the track record, not even just of his lineage, but the track record of how great God was throughout the generations for them. And that's what we really want to focus on, is the track record of how our God was for us. That's why even in the prophecy, when I spoke earlier, said, "What for have your forefathers found in me?" Did you have you had any communications? Did you get any testimonies from them, pro or negative? So these are things that we got to think of today as Israelites moving forward. So I hope you got something out of what I said. I know it's a little bit loquacious at this particular time, and I'm sorry for I apologize for the mishaps on the computer, and any other mistakes been my own. And if leave a comment, and it's a brother left a comment, I think YAH, whatever, I'm not sure the name, but it wasn't clear what he meant. So if you're going to leave a comment too, please be very clear about what you mean in your comments, so I'll be able to reply to that. With that, I say Shalom Aleichem, and an early Shabbat Shalom, and an early Purim Tov. All right. Purim Sameach. Shalom.
Thank you, everybody. Shalom, shalom.
Shalom.